Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Alright, so with the Great League Remix coming, I put a top 5 teams together, or my top 5. So I'm actually going to do this in 2 parts. This is going to be my top 5 most powerful teams, and then the next one's going to be the top 5 budget teams. So if you feel like you can't contend in the Great League Remix, I'm going to try to find something that's budget to where it can help you out as far as top team goes. But after doing like 100 team combinations, that's what I do every time I put one of these together. I concluded that there are 5 teams that are very, very powerful and very, very strong. Obviously, these are based off of what I figured out, or like all the things that my crazy mind does when I put teams together, because I am a proven team builder and consistently. And without further ado, as you see, this is the list of 10 Pokemon that are banned in the Great League Remix, and these are the top 5 teams I think will function pretty well in Great League Remix. Obviously, there are other teams, and there are probably better teams out there. However, these are the teams that I found that might just do really well for you in the Great League Remix. Anyways, let's get started. Alright, so like I mentioned before, I tried to put some teams in here that were used before by like other people, just because I think if you have a team that's already presented by someone else and I think it's really good, it could probably work really well in Great League Remix. And this is PV Poke's team at number 5. For number 5, for number 5 team, I have Deoxys Defense, Sableye, and Alolan Ninetales. If the Charmtails version, Charmtails works really well in this meta because there's a lot of fighters, and with Charm A9, you could probably just be like, basically, if you've played this team in the Switch meta, the 30-second Switch meta, it basically operates the same thing with this Great League Remix meta. As you see here, very safe and consistent, still works equally as well in my opinion, because just of the fact that, because it's very safe, per se. As you see here, it's extremely safe, it does consistent amount of damage, great coverage, and still a good amount of bulk. It doesn't seem like it has a lot of bulk because it's Sableye and Alolan Ninetales, however, Charmtails is very powerful, and Sableye does a ton of damage. So, if you look at the coverage this team has against the meta, it's pretty dang good. Along with that, with Charmtails, like, if you could take out Altaria, there's still a lot of ways you can play around certain teams. As you see here, your potential threats aren't many either. Fortress isn't likely going to be a heavy threat in this meta. Same thing with Actually, Fortress is an interesting pick, but you likely won't see Typhlosion. You likely won't see Venomoth. You probably will see Alolan Ninetales and Clefable, but as you see here, if you catch Bastiodon, Bastiodon can get punched down. But as you see here, it's very, very good against the overall meta. There's, like, not a lot of things completely beat this entire line. And as you see here, it's very, very powerful. With Charmtails, you can effectively 2-shield Charm, or like I said here, there's a lot of ways you can play out of things. If you do get a Charmer in the lead like Gardevoir, you can break the shields and then just charm down with your own Charmtails and with chip damage, etc. So there's a lot of ways you can play around top meta picks with this team. It also has a pretty low threat score. 635 doesn't seem low, but like when I was doing analysis and like putting teams together, 700, like minus 700 was pretty common. So again, this team built by PV Poke for the 30-second Switch Timer team actually performs very well here in the Great League Remix as well. Team number 4 is also a common commodity. As you see here, it is triple Weatherball with Politoed, Pelipper, and Ninetales. So, fun fact. Why does it really hurt to say this? None of the Weatherballers were actually banned. The funny part is, for Alolan Ninetales, the ones that were banned were actually Alolan Marowak and Alolan Raichu, which is just really, I mean, I could see Marowak, but Alolan Raichu really, dude. Anyways, with Alolan Raichu, triple Weatherball is actually still a thing and still allowed. Had they accounted for the Weatherballers, I think this team, one of these 3 might have been banned, but as you see here, triple Weatherball still does really well. Overall, with the Great League Remix, the Great League Remix is a very psychic-heavy, charm-heavy, like, psychic-heavy, fighter-heavy meta. But because of the spam, and I mean Weatherball spam, these 3 still do very, very well in this meta, with things like Politoed's Earthquake doing heavy damage, Alolan Ninetales Dazzling Gleam can take out fighters, and does a ton of damage if it lands. As you see here, not a lot of coverage or bulk. However, the thing is, this team is very safe and it is consistent because its whole purpose is to ball out. Literally, ball out. They will 3-pointer Weatherball the unholy hell out of this meta, and as you see here, they actually work really, really well together. If you've seen this team before, this team will put a lot of pressure on your opponent, and as you see here, it does have somewhat of a many weaknesses, with Deoxys defense, Cresselia, but none of those weaknesses in here actually hard beat it. For example, if you look at Deoxys defense, it's still, even though it does win, it doesn't win super hard, with the only thing that really threatens this team super hard is probably Magnezone. But even then, with Politoed in the lead, you will outpace Magnezone, and those Mudshots do a ton of damage. Like, it doesn't do a ton of damage, but it'll add up with the because Electric and Steel are both weak against ground, so that's why how you can get out of Magnezone. And that, as you see here, its weaknesses in Ferrothorn, Lickitung, Zebra Strike. You probably won't see a lot of the holistic weaknesses here, with the exception of Wigglytuff. But the thing is, what you do with Wigglytuff is you just beat it down. This team is very pressure heavy, and if you played it before in Open Great League, it can operate just as well in the Great League Remix, just because, like I said, Weatherball is very pressive, Weatherball can run the clock, Weatherball is spammy, and you deal a lot of damage over time. Especially with G-Fizz gone, like, with G-Fizz gone is kind of a good thing, because you don't, like, Alola Ninetales doesn't have to worry about G-Fizz coming back. You still have to worry about, I would say, Registeel, but even then, like, with Registeel, Pelipper and Politoed can handle Registeel pretty hard, so high threat score, but again, this team's whole purpose, if you used it before, it's still really good. For the sole purpose, it's just going to chip a ton of it's just going to deal a ton of damage over time, so it can still work really well in the Great League Remix. Alright, so for the Great League Remix, I will be doing a budget team, like a budget team builder, so my top 5 budget teams. However, when I was making teams, I was trying to figure out just how I can make kind of really simple picks work. I know Deoxys defense hasn't been out forever. I know things like Mew are very, like, unobtainable and hard to get. So, like, for these three teams, these teams are teams that I put together. They do pretty well against the overall meta, but the reason being is because, like I said, like, it's like I really try to find something that's not really super high barrier to entry, but things that can work well. So, as you see here, we have Altaria. Altaria is a powerful lead because it takes out a lot of the fighters. And with Vigoroth, we got a great save switch, and Registeel is your closer. Registeel is the most powerful closer in this meta. Vigoroth is the most powerful save switch. With them together, Altaria can avoid those Registeels. You can Focus Blast opposing Registeels, and Vigoroth is a beast by beating it down. As you see here, very good across the board as far as coverage and safety. Great bulk and great consistency. It'll deal a ton of damage over time. As you see here, it does very well against the meta. Again, if you lose lead, again, if you see like Alola Ninetales, or if you see a Charmer, just switch out, take it out with Vigoroth and Bastiodon, and then Altaria can clean up a lot of things in the back, as long as you can take out the Charmers. If they're running double Charm, Vigoroth and Bastiodon Vigoroth and Registeel are probably going to do some heavy lifting. But as you see here, it does very, very well against the overall top meta picks. With your only weaknesses as potential threats goes is Hitmonchan, which you're not probably going to see very often. You might see Poliwrath and Mantine. Poliwrath and Mantine are actually very spammy and very interesting mons to use in this meta, particularly Mantine. However, I don't foresee them being used as much as something like a Medicham XL. But as you see here, this team does very, very well. Very strong, and all of these three Pokemon, with the exception of Registeel, if you don't have one yet, are pretty accessible. So, like I said, I'll be doing a budget team builder later, my top 5 budget teams for the Great League Remix. But for right now, this is probably one of the better teams I found that is pretty available and can do very, very well in the Great League Remix. Alright, now we're gonna go to Super Meta. Okay, so this team is very, like, when I put this team together, I was really trying to figure stuff out. But as you see here, Altaria, Registeel, and Deoxys defense. Altaria I like as a lead a lot because you could pivot away from Charmers, but overall it does take out the fighters pretty hard, and it does really well against a lot of the Psychic typings, with the exception of Altaria, because Moonblast really sucks if it hits! So as you see here, but overall Altaria is still a good burb. As you see here, it has great coverage, good safety, great bulk, and great consistency, so you'll do a lot of damage with it. The reason why I like this team is, like I mentioned, Registeel and Deoxys defense are, like, well, this is a super meta team, okay? It's a super meta team. If you have these, and you want to use something that's overly dominant, and basically just, like, almost identical to super meta in Season 1, because all I'm really doing is replacing Azu with a Deoxys defense, well, this is why. As you see here, it does really, really well. With your potential threats, as this is the only team I found where there's one mon that doesn't really beat the entire core. As you see here, this team does great against a lot of different combinations. Yes, Witch Clash can, okay, so make sure you count how many mud shots it takes to get the Blizzard, because if you've ever seen a Wishcash Blizzard a Altaria, it sucks. And I mean, it sucks for the person that does not shield, and 2, decides to eat the said Blizzard, because it will send you to the next Ice Age. Have you ever seen the Titanic? If you have not, I recommend it. It's a great 3-hour movie. You'll figure out what that movie is about in just one move if your Wishcash hits a Blizzard on an Altaria. Anyways, enough about Altaria. As you see here, it does really well against a lot of combinations. Again, if you lose lead to Altaria, you have 2 things to back it out of the back, but Altaria can close out pretty comfortably against multiple combinations. Also, if you match line a Sky Attack at a certain range, it can possibly take out a Bastion or a Charmer. I've seen it before, I've done it, and it's really, really cool. But as you see here, like I mentioned before, the reason why this is probably the best team in my opinion as far as coverage, this team has the lowest threat score I've found. And like I've said, I put probably over 70 team combinations before I made this video, and this is the one that has the lowest threat score. There's no one Pokemon that beats this team super hard or has a chance against this team. This thing covers each other really well just because of the way the Great League Remix meta works. So really powerful team. As you see, the lowest threat score again I could find, and it does really, really well against a lot of top meta picks. And last but not least, for those of you that really like Medicham XL and Bastiodon, because those 2 Pokemon as core has been really powerful in the past couple of Great League analysis I've done, one of the top teams was actually Medicham Bastiodon, at least for 2 parts, so it's still really good. As you see here, I have Medicham XL on the lead, Vigoroth as your safe switch, and Bastiodon to close out. Again, all I'm doing is really replacing G-Fisk or the safe switch, which was like G-Fisk or Azu, with a Vigoroth, which is the one that's allowed in Great League Remix, and it performs surprisingly well. Again, if you like Bastiodon, this team does really, really well, because Medicham and Bastiodon are just a powerful combination. That's why you see them together a lot. Overall, good bulk, good coverage, good safety, great bulk and consistency. Now, the one thing is, Deoxys defense can give you a lot of a hard time, as you see here. However, it still does very, very well. You can sacrifice Medicham, send in Bastiodon to farm, Vigoroth to farm down, save shields with Bastiodon, or you can save your shields for Medicham or Vigoroth and just try to do as much damage as you can. Now, the only issue of this team is that Deoxys defense does have a strong combination against, as a strong matchup against, yeah, it's a strong combination against all these 3, just because Deoxys defense is a Psychic type, and it can do super effective damage counter against Vigoroth. It can also beat down Bastiodon, so Deoxys defense can farm down a Bastiodon with a shield, as long as Bastiodon doesn't have energy advantage, etc. You also should be mindful of Jellicent, because Jellicent actually, it resists Vigoroth, it resists Vigoroth's body stance, it also resists Medicham XL's counters and Vigoroth's counters as well. And unless, well, it even resists Ice Punch, it doesn't resist Psychic. So Jellicent gives this team a little bit of a hard time. Gliscor and Golurk, you're probably not going to see those 2 Pokemon that much. However, you might see Cresselia. So again, there is some top meta picks that this team does suffocate against. But like I mentioned before, if you like Medicham XL and Bastion, you probably are used to using this combination of Pokemon, and they still do really, really well. As you see here, the threat score is a lot lower than a lot of other teams I featured over here, but it's still very, very good, like I said. Just be careful. If you lose lead, switch into Vigoroth, and then Bastiodon with shields, or Bastiodon down shields actually can take out some of these Pokemon. For example, Bastiodon down shields can take out Altaria. Bastiodon down shields can also possibly take out Cresselia. As long as you don't line up Bastiodon against a fighter, you're good. And this team does very, very well against a lot of pseudo fighters. But again, anything with Bastiodon is very tap-tappy, so just keep in mind, if you aren't used to using this team, you might want to consider one of the other ones. And those are the teams. If you guys have a team suggestion you want to take a look at it, go ahead and put it below. But again, I will be doing another video on the top budget teams that I can make of with the Great League Remix. The good thing about the Great League Remix is there's a lot of actually viable community Pokemon that have great community moves that you can use in here. Yes, Swampert is banned, but that doesn't mean like things like Meganium might not actually be really useful, because I actually saw that as a recommendation when I was putting teams together. So again, I'll put a good budget team combination together to see what I can come up with for the Great League Remix. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully these teams are something you're considering, and you might want to try one of these out for the Great League Remix that's coming out next week. Again, good luck on your guys' Go Battle League sets. If you haven't done so yet, please like and subscribe. Look out for the next video that if you don't have these Pokemon, hopefully the budget team one I put out will help you out. Again, these are the top teams I figure out with, that assuming that you have every Pokemon available on this list. Again, good luck on your Go Battle League sets. Please like, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you guys on the next video.
Ciao!